You're right, guys. We're going to be learning about the 27 amendments in the US. This should be pretty cool because I know just about a handful. So be interesting to find out what the rest and what they mean. So strap up and let's find out.
First Amendment. It protects individuals' rights to express ideas, practice any religion or none, report news, gather in groups for peaceful purposes, and request government changes without fear of retaliation, ensuring a foundation for democracy and personal freedom.
That is
It basically
nice.
guarantees freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. Second Amendment.
Wow. That should be in every single country. I think that is that should be a basic human right, I believe, that one. That's brilliant.
Retaliation, ensuring a foundation for democracy and personal freedom.
That is
It
brilliant.
basically guarantees freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. Second Amendment.
Agreed.
Protects the right to keep and bear arms, allowing individuals to own weapons for personal safety, defense, and recreational use. It supports the concept of self-defense and the collective security of a free state, reflecting historical importance placed on militias and individual rights. Third Amendment.
I can understand that one. I can also see how dangerous it is to have for citizens to have guns, but I can understand it. I think one of the explanations I heard behind it was something along the lines of, if the government becomes really crazy or tyrannical or something like that, the people at least have something to retaliate with, which is their weapons. And I think citizens should have a right to defend themselves against a government that tries to go AWOL, if you would, right? But again, at the same time, I can see how it would be very dangerous to just give the general public guns. But I'm not here to lecture anyone about the rules of their country. So I'm just here to learn and try to understand and maybe see like, oh, I get it. I remember, you know? So
Prevents the government from forcing citizens to house soldiers' individual rights. Third Amendment. Prevents the government from forcing citizens to house soldiers in their homes during peacetime without consent. This amendment addresses grievances
what? To house soldiers in their homes?
and individual rights. Third Amendment. Prevents the government from forcing citizens to house soldiers in their homes during
Okay.
peacetime without consent. This amendment addresses grievances from colonial times under British rule, emphasizing the importance of privacy and property rights in a free society. Fourth Amendment.
Okay, very
Protects
interesting.
individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures.
I don't really think there's too much I can add on top of that. It's pretty self-explanatory in all fairness.
Fourth Amendment.
Interesting.
Protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures, requiring law enforcement to obtain a warrant based on probable cause for such actions.
Right.
It ensures privacy and security in personal property, reflecting a balance between individual rights and the needs of law enforcement. Fifth Amendment.
Damn, that's an amendment? Wow, brilliant. That's good. That's good. I mean, who wants law enforcement just coming into a house suspecting stuff that might not be there and then just going in there? Nah, bro, come with the paperwork. Thank you. I think that's dope.
Reflecting a balance between individual rights and the needs of law enforcement. Fifth Amendment. Provides protections in legal processes, including protection against self-incrimination, guarantees due process of law, prohibits double punishment for the same charges, and ensures compensation for the taking of private property for public use. It safeguards personal liberties and property rights in court.
What's the name of this? Is it just called the Fifth Amendment? Sorry.
Law enforcement. Fifth Amendment. Provides protections in legal processes, including protection against self-incrimination,
Oh, right,
guarantees
okay.
due process of law, prohibits double punishment for the same charges, and ensures compensation for the taking of private property for public use.
Right,
safeguards
okay.
Personal liberties and property rights in court. Sixth Amendment.
So essentially abiding by the law in a way, right? Making sure that the person is protected when they're dealing with the law, essentially.
Protection against self-incrimination, guarantees due process of law, prohibits double punishment for the same charges, and ensures compensation for the taking of private property for public use.
Right.
It safeguards personal liberties and property rights in court.
This one's very loaded.
Ensures the right to a fair and speedy trial, the right to know the charges, confront accusers, obtain witnesses in defense, and have legal representation.
Nice.
This amendment is fundamental to the justice system,
Yeah.
guaranteeing a fair legal process for criminal defendants. Seventh Amendment.
Dope.
Guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases involving disputes over property or money, preserving the role of juries in the legal system. It reflects the historical importance of jury trials in protecting individual rights against arbitrary government action. Eighth Amendment.
All right, okay.
Prohibits excessive
Some of these I had no idea were even within the amendments, because having a jury seems to be quite common in almost every democratic country, if you would. But having it in your amendments, I suppose, solidifies it, which is pretty
individual
dope.
rights against arbitrary government action. Eighth Amendment. Prohibits excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishment, ensuring that penalties are fair and proportional to bail and fines.
Wait, what?
And arbitrary government action. Eighth Amendment. Prohibits excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishment, ensuring that penalties are fair and proportional to the offense. This amendment reflects society's values on humane treatment and justice, preventing the government from imposing overly harsh penalties.
Good, because I was wondering who is the judge, if you would, of the significance of punishments and stuff like that, but is reflected on society, what society believes. So okay, interesting. So fascinating. So if society was to be like hanging is acceptable, then that's what we will do, isn't it? Which was the case in the past. I guess that's how it should be. If the masses are determining what is acceptable, then I guess that's fine, right? Because we are part of the masses, I suppose, if you would. But very interesting. I want to listen to this one again.
Eighth Amendment. Prohibits excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishment, ensuring that penalties are fair and proportional to the offense. This amendment reflects society's values on humane treatment and justice, preventing the government from imposing overly harsh penalties. Ninth Amendment. States that the enumeration of specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that people do not have other rights that are not listed. This amendment protects unenumerated rights.
What?
Ninth Amendment. States that the enumeration of specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that people do not have other rights that are not listed. This amendment protects unenumerated rights, acknowledging that individuals hold more freedoms than those explicitly mentioned.
Right. Okay.
10th Amendment.
So not everything is
Clarifies
jotted down. Do bear in mind that some of these will fly completely over my head. I think you might have maybe already noticed, but like, just thought I'd say that. Just thought I'd say that. You know what I'm saying?
Hold more freedoms than those explicitly mentioned. 10th Amendment clarifies that powers not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution, nor prohibited to the states, are reserved to the states or the people. It emphasizes the principle of federalism by limiting federal power and protecting state sovereignty and individual liberties.
Nice.
11th Amendment limits the ability of individuals to sue states in federal court, protecting states' sovereignty. Limits the ability of individuals to sue states in federal court, protecting states' sovereignty by requiring consent for such lawsuits. It addresses concerns over state immunity and the balance of power between state and federal governments. 12th Amendment.
Wait, so can you just not at all sue the state?
Limits the ability of individuals to sue states in federal.
It limits their ability. So I believe you might still be able to. I don't know, maybe based on evidence or if your case is really strong or something like that. I don't know. I don't think it's saying outright you're not allowed to sue the state.
Liberties.
But I think not being able to might be a bit. I think you should be able to, right? Because let's say something happens with a police officer, they're essentially a representation of the state, if you would. Okay, let me not, I'm not qualified to necessarily dive into this topic, nor am I from the US, so I don't really have the answers like that. So I think it's best to just kind of surface level debate and not try to, man, I think, no, we're not doing that.
Limits the ability of individuals to sue states in federal court, protecting states' sovereignty by requiring consent for such lawsuits. It addresses concerns over state immunity and the balance of power between state and federal governments.
Okay.
12th Amendment modifies the procedure for electing the president and vice president, ensuring they are elected on separate ballots. This change was made to prevent confusion, promoting a clearer and more effective presidential election process. 13th.
Really? Whoa. I always thought the president chose the vice president. I didn't know people voted for that.
And vice president, ensuring they are elected on separate ballots.
That's pretty interesting. You guys elect vice president as well? I thought he was just kind of like a package deal with the actual president, Like the president is elected and is like, I want my boy. Like at a wedding, you got your best man. I thought it was kind of something like that, but if I'm interpreting this correctly, you also get to choose the vice president as a nation, which I think is brilliant if that's the case. That's actually really dope.
Is the procedure for electing the president and vice president, ensuring they are elected on separate ballots. This change was made to prevent confusion, promoting a clearer and more effective presidential election process. 13th Amendment abolishes slavery and involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, marking a pivotal change in American society by formally ending the legal institution of slavery and reflecting the nation's commitment to individual freedom and human rights.
So the 13th Amendment is you can't enslave essentially. Nice.
14th Amendment grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S., guarantees equal protection under the law, and extends civil liberties. It played a crucial role in civil rights by defining citizenship and ensuring legal protections for all individuals, including former slaves. 15th Amendment prohibits
That's an interesting one. I think that one can split people in regards to should you have birthright citizenship or not. What do I think of that? I suppose if you're born on that crop of land, then you should essentially be a citizen. But I can see how some people would abuse that system, if you know what I mean. But isn't the history of the states essentially based on immigration? So this is something that's been going for a long, long time.
Born or naturalized in the U.S., guarantees equal protection under the law, and extends civil liberties. It played a crucial role in civil rights by defining citizenship and ensuring legal protections for all individuals, including former slaves. 15th Amendment prohibits denying the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude, advancing civil rights by ensuring that all men, regardless of race, have the right to vote, though actual implementation faced significant challenges.
Really?
Voting rights will be a key issue as we head into an election year. In November, a federal appeals court decision paved the way for a Supreme Court battle over the Voting Rights Act. Whether you saw this story may depend on which way you lean politically, because it is mostly being covered by left and center rates news sources. I know this thanks to Ground News, the sponsor of today's video.
What? This was still a debate in modern time? I thought this was something a long time ago.
All men, regardless of race, have the right to vote, though actual implementation faced significant challenges. Voting rights will be a key issue as we head into an election year.
Really? Still? Wow, interesting. Fascinating, if you would. But I always thought racism is an interesting topic. Seems to be quite low level thinking, to be honest. I only say that because it's, you know, if you're playing a video game, it's just like it's just a skin color. It shouldn't necessarily determine anything, you know. It's just a cover up. You know what I'm saying? But people think differently, so it is what it is. 16th, some people, 16th Amendment.
16th Amendment authorizes the federal government to collect income taxes without apportioning it among the states based on population, enabling a key source of revenue for the government and supporting the funding of public services and infrastructure. 17th Amendment.
Taxes. The bane to all of our existence as working adults. The bane, you know, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem paying taxes if the government decided to use the funds correctly. And I think in the States, from what I've heard, it's even more frustrating considering that you guys send billions around the world. Whether that's, I think the UK does it as well here, to be honest, which is really quite frustrating. But, you know, some of us, we're just regular people and our voice isn't large enough to make a difference. And even if you are a celebrity, you probably don't give a fuck because you're making a shit ton of money anyway. So what I will say is fuck taxes, but apparently we need to pay them so we can have our roads fixed that haven't been fixed in years, but that's neither here or there, whatever.
And supporting the funding of public services and infrastructure. 17th Amendment establishes the direct election of U.S. senators by the voters of the states, enhancing democratic governance by making senators more accountable to the electorate, reflecting a move towards greater democracy and public participation in government.
Seems like a good
18th
idea.
Amendment initiates prohibition, making the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol illegal, aiming to improve social conditions, but ultimately in government. 18th Amendment initiates prohibition, making the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol illegal, aiming to improve social conditions but ultimately leading to unintended consequences and the rise of illegal alcohol trade, demonstrating the complexities of legislating morality.
Wow.
19th Amendment extends the right to vote to women, marking a significant milestone in the fight for gender equality by recognizing women's suffrage as a fundamental democratic right, reflecting the culmination of a long struggle for women's rights. 20th Amendment.
When did this come into
Illegal
place?
alcohol
Apologize.
trade, demonstrating the complexities of legislating morality.
Did he mention it?
19th Amendment extends the right to vote to women,
That's an amendment? Wow. Damn, dog. That seems like some, you know what, history. We've come a long way. If I would, we've come a long way. I think I think we can just leave it there, right? We've come a long way.
Significant milestone in the fight for gender equality by recognizing women's suffrage as a fundamental democratic right, reflecting the culmination of a long struggle for women's rights.
It does almost make me wonder. I suppose because I am a modern man, if you would. It makes me almost wonder why. What was the thought process behind not wanting women to vote, and obviously also people of color? It's interesting. Maybe it was due to a lack of knowledge. It was also tied with a superiority complex of the people that were in charge. Obviously, I imagine they felt as though women and other people that didn't allow to vote were beneath them or their opinions weren't valid. Probably something along those lines, I would imagine. But obviously things have changed a lot, and it's a lot more balanced these days. And all I can say is I'm happy to be alive in this time, bro. I couldn't imagine being in the fucking 50s or 60s or something like that. That shit looks tough. That shit looks tough, bro. Especially in the West. As a black guy, that shit would have been tough. But yeah, 2025 black man, not too bad. Not too bad, man.
20th Amendment changes the dates for the start of presidential, vice presidential, and congressional terms and addresses presidential succession, aiming to reduce the period where there's an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon, and ensures a smoother transition of power.
Hold on.
20
Hold on.
already presidential the start of long struggle for women's rights. 20th Amendment changes the dates for the start of presidential, vice presidential, and congressional terms and addresses presidential succession, aiming to reduce the period where there's an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon, and ensures a smoother transition of power.
They want to
terms
to
and
reduce
addresses
it?
presidential succession, aiming to reduce the period
Ah.
where there's an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon, and ensures a smooth.
That seems like it makes sense because it could be wrong what I'm mentioning, but I suppose if you continuously have the same team or the same party in power, then ideas aren't being changed, I guess. So reducing the terms is better for different ideas to be in office. I think I might be misinterpreting this amendment, but
Rights. 20th Amendment changes the dates for the start of presidential, vice presidential, and congressional terms
the dates for the start
and addresses
for the
presidential
terms.
succession, aiming to reduce the period where there's an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon, and ensures a smoother transition of power.
Dude,
21st Amendment.
I think I was just yapping. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying. Okay, please.
Amendment revokes the 18th Amendment, ending prohibition and allowing states to regulate alcohol, acknowledging the failure of prohibition and the need for a more practical approach to alcohol regulation and consumption. 22nd Amendment limits the presidency to 2 terms, responding to Franklin D. Roosevelt's 4-term presidency.
Okay, I think I might have jumped the gun. I was maybe more so referring to this.
Limits the presidency to 2 terms, responding to Franklin D. Roosevelt's 4-term presidency by establishing a formal restriction
4
to prevent
terms.
indefinite re-election and ensure periodic leadership renewal. 23rd Amendment.
I do like that one. I do really like that one because without it, you could end up with dictators, bro. You know what I'm saying? You could really end up with dictators, and who's gonna take them out of power, bro? Who's gonna take them out of power if they're in charge? So I think that's a brilliant amendment. You know, it keeps things fresh, if you would. If someone's fucking up the country, then at least there's hope 4 years or 8 years down the line, if you would. Is it usually 2 terms, right? 2 terms for what? Is it 4 years? Yeah, so yeah. If someone's messing up the country, there's hope that when their term is over, that things can get better, at least.
Residents of Washington, D.C., the right to vote in presidential elections, addressing the lack of grants residents of Washington, D.C., the right to vote in presidential elections, addressing the lack of representation for the district's residents, and moving towards greater democratic participation. 24th Amendment.
I feel like that just went over my head. What?
Election and ensure periodic leadership renewal. 23rd Amendment. Grants residents of Washington, D.C., the right to vote in presidential elections, addressing the lack of representation for the district's residents, and moving towards greater democratic participation.
Okay.
24th Amendment.
It's a lot
Prohibits
simpler
poll taxes in federal elections, eliminating a barrier to voting for low-income individuals. Prohibits poll taxes in federal elections, eliminating a barrier to voting for low-income individuals, and advancing civil rights by ensuring that the right to vote cannot be conditioned on economic status.
Nice.
25th Amendment. Clarifies presidential succession and procedures for addressing presidential disability, ensuring continuity and stability of the executive branch by providing clear guidelines for transferring power in cases of incapacity.
Okay.
26th Amendment. Lowers the voting age from 21 to 18, recognizing the maturity and citizenship responsibilities of younger adults, particularly in light of military service, and
Right.
expanding democratic participation. 27th Amendment. Delays
I don't think I can have any disagreements with that. 18. I believe in the isn't it's in the UK. What is it? Is it 18? It might be younger. It might be younger. I'm not even sure, to be honest, but that seems like it's fair. It makes sense having it at 18,
military service and expanding democratic participation.
especially given that you can get enrolled for the army at that age, so it makes sense.
27th Amendment. Delays congressional pay changes from taking effect until after the next election, ensuring that legislators cannot immediately benefit from their own decisions regarding salary adjustments,
Really?
promoting accountability and fairness. Shout out to these guys who are the first patrons that support my channel. You can end up on this list as well. Check out the link in the description.
That is dope. What a great video. This was from the Paint Explainer. That was brilliant. I actually learned quite a bit from watching that, and I have a bit of a better understanding of the amendments in the UK. And I think this is dope having it like this because it's pretty simplified. So it's not too difficult for, I imagine, citizens to be like, no, I know my amendments, I know my rights. And then you can just point to this one and then it's clearly explained. You know what I mean? So that's dope. I mean, I've always liked that the Americans have this system in place because, again, it is very simple and it gives a lot of rights to the citizens. I can see why some tyrannical governments don't like some of these amendments. And yeah, I will say you guys in the States, you're very, very fortunate to have some of these amendments in place. And I would say always fight to keep these there because without them, I think you could end up with a lot of countries that don't have a lot of rights. And for some of us, we look to you guys to carry the fight forward and wave the flag of freedom. Damn, that was smooth.